Today we're going to talk about marriage-based and fiance-based visas and green cards for the United States for people married or engaged with Iranians. So you're a U.S. citizen or green card holder, you're marrying or are married to Iran, and you want to get their marriage-based green card. There are a lot of problems, headaches, and delays that are part of this process. Today we're going to talk about trends in January 2023 and the rest of this year that you have to be prepared for when making a decision to go down this process, along with tips and other consideration to help make it faster. I'm immigration lawyer John Khosravi. I am fluent in Farsi and Persian, but this video is all going to be in English. If you'd like to schedule a private consultation, email me at info@jqqlaw.com. And if you haven't already, like and subscribe wherever you're watching this, YouTube, podcast, wherever else, to get more information just like this. So let me break down what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about consular processing when your spouse or fiance is going to go through the embassy. The process of getting a green card in the United States, known as adjusting the status, is not having the problems that are typical for Iranian cases where the spouse or fiance is outside the United States. Processing in the U.S. is pretty much the same for everybody. At most, there's a couple of more months extra processing time for many Iranian cases, but nothing too noticeable. So we're focusing on consular processing. Now let's break down how the whole process looks, and I'll tell you where the problems emerge, both for all cases, but then the ones that are particular to Iranian nationals. So first and foremost, when you do get married or are engaged and you plan on taking this process with the immigration department forward to get the green card, you have to submit paperwork to what's called the USCIS, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service. If you're married, you submit Form I-130. If you're engaged, and you're a U.S. citizen engaged, not a green card holder, but only U.S. citizens, you submit Form I-129F for fiance visa cases. This goes to USCIS, and this is where the first delay happens. A couple years ago, it would take 6 months for these petitions, as they call them, to be approved. Right now, it's taking 12 or 13 months on average. That time has doubled. It's very hard to speed it up. The conditions that are going on in Iran with the revolutionary sentiment that's happening in the streets is not a reason we've seen to be successful in speeding these things up. It's always possible to make an expedited request for various reasons, and we've had success sometimes, but it's harder and harder based on everything that's going on with the immigration department in the United States. So you can expect that year-long process happening just for them to really believe you're actually a couple. Once that's approved, we start working with the embassy system. The umbrella is the Department of State. There's different agencies within it that help you. First, USCIS sends the approved case to the National Visa Center, also known as the NVC. That could take a week or two, or it could take 6 to 8 weeks. So there's some delay right there. Then the National Visa Center in fiance-based cases assigns a number to the case and gives it to the embassy. However, if you're doing a marriage-based case, the NVC keeps the file, assigns a number to it, and has you begin submitting documents right there to them by uploading documents to their website for the initial review of your case. And this includes a detailed Form DS-260 about all the background information of the foreign applicant, uploading copies of their civil documents, their birth certificate, the Shanasnameh, passport bio page, and the like, and also the financial documents to show that the U.S. spouse or U.S. spouse in this case can support the foreign national, and or adding joint sponsors to help show additional financial support. For marriage-based cases, once this is done, the NVC says the documents are good and forwards it to the embassy that you're going to be dealing with for them to schedule an interview. And this is where the next step of delay happens, both for fiance cases and for marriage cases, is that getting a case interview is taking forever for Iranian cases. Iranians have 3 embassies that they could tend to do their interviews. There's Ankara in Turkey, there's Abu Dhabi in the UAE, and there's Yerevan in Armenia. And so all these 3 are the ones that handle Iranian green card cases and fiance visas. You have to go to them. You can't go to other locations unless you have other circumstances. Let's say, for example, you're Iranian who lives legally as a resident in London, England, so you go to that embassy. But if you're living in Iran, those are the ones you can go to. And unfortunately, all of them are processing very slow. What we've seen in the last 2 years is the embassy in Turkey and the embassy in the UAE taking anywhere from 15 to 24 months. Imagine that, 1.5 to 2 years just to schedule an interview to go to the interview. So all of a sudden, when you add up what's going on, that's a year of processing time for them to believe you're really a couple. Then at least a year, maybe 1.5 to 2 years just to get the interview. Now, what we've been doing is requesting that all cases be sent to Armenia, and that's been successful because Armenia might take a year. but we sent so many cases there, and everyone knows to send their cases there, that they're getting backed up such that the National Visa Center is assigning cases to the other embassies, even if we had asked for the case to go to Armenia. So be prepared for Armenia backing up due to the amount of cases that are going there, but that's just what we've been doing. So there's the second part of delay, getting an actual interview to happen. Once the interview is scheduled, and you go to the interview, one problem that pops up for, I would say, 50% of Iranian cases, whether you're a man or a woman, whether you're a person who's got a visa before to the United States or a Schengen visa or has a clear background, it doesn't matter. You might get subject to a thing called administrative processing. Administrative processing means that they need to think more about your case. Administrative processing means many different things. It's a paper they give you at the end of the interview that says, we can't approve you yet. We need to think about it more, and it might list documents that you need to send them or corrections that need to happen for your case. But let's say all your paperwork is clean. Administrative processing means you have to think about your case. And I've seen cases take 2 or 3 months for administrative processing for them to make a final decision and ask you to bring in your passport for visa stamping. And I've seen it take 6 months. I've seen it take 1 year. I've even had people come to me 2.5, 3 years after the interview in administrative processing limbo with no decision happening. So be prepared for that. You have the delay in getting proof that you're really a couple. You have the delay in getting an interview. And in half the cases, you have a delay in getting administrative processing cleared. So then all of a sudden you add that all up. That's like 2 to 4 years for you to bring your fiance or your spouse or maybe your minor children or parents of U.S. citizens. These are similar kind of case processing times. It takes a long time. It's horrible. It destroys love and passionate relationship with you planning for the future. It's awful. Now it comes to things, what solutions are there? And what we found is really the only solution with the regards to an interview not being scheduled or with regard to administrative processing taking too long is filing a lawsuit against the government for these delays. It's not a guarantee that it will work or will lead to approval, but most of the time it has for the last 5 years that people have been suing on this really hard. The numbers of lawsuits are increasing dramatically. It's not considered a scary thing. The worst problem about the lawsuit is the cost of it. But we're seeing that work when you really need to get the case done, because waiting 2 or 4 years for your fiance, spouse, parent, or minor children to come to the United States is a ridiculous timetable to wait. Now, mind you, I need to make a correction at the beginning. If you're a U.S. citizen filing for your spouse, that could take a year for them to believe it. If you're a green card holder, that could take 2 years. Completely out of control timeline. So imagine you're a green card holder filing for your spouse, an Iranian, 2 years for them to believe the relationship is real, 2 years to get an interview, 4 years go by. It's really hard. It's really, really hard. There's no other way to put it. And there's a lot of worse ways to put it, frankly. But these are the delays we're experiencing. So if you talk with a lawyer and said, no, it's going to take a year, I would not be trustful of that person making these kind of claims. Now, I do have to give you a side note. We've had random cases where the I-130 petition was approved in 3 months. That kind of stuff happens sometimes. I had 1 out of 10 out of 20 cases where the embassy scheduled an interview 4 months after the National Visa Center approved the document. So you might hear these stories that this happens, and it does happen, but that's, if we're lucky, 2% of the time. Majority of cases do not happen like this. Just massive, massive delays throughout the process. And the last thing I want to leave you with is about people, men in particular, who had membership in Sepah, the IRGC, National Revolutionary Guard Corps. They have said, they haven't said it, they just started doing it. As of January 2021, when the General Iran was assassinated, they started denying all cases where a person had ties to Sepah. Even if it was in Sadbozi, the time of a year where they go, or time of their lives, where they have to go to mandatory military service. If you have that history, they will deny your case. So one thing that's happened is we have cases that are about to go to the interview, but we either cancel the interview or don't go, and waiting for a solution to this problem to happen. Because if they do go to the interview, they're going to be accused of being part of a foreign terrorist organization, and that's going to go in the file. That's the last thing we want, to be written down all your documents that you're a terrorist. So we say, listen, pause the case. Let's see what happens politically between the two countries, if there's some solution to this, and then bring him here, which has a consequence of some couples being separated now for 4 years and ongoing and unknown. I've even had U.S. citizens decide to move outside the United States to live with their spouse in Turkey, for example, because there's no way for them to come to the United States because in 1990 or during the war or whenever, they're forced to join Sepah for one reason or another. And they were not active, they didn't believe in it, but it was mandatory military service. So be prepared for massive delays. This is the reality that we're in. The best thing you can do is just start early and have an eye for filing lawsuits to get this stuff started. That's the realistic trend that's been happening and will continue for the next 6 months at least. And we'll do update videos if new information comes about. Our website is jqqlaw.com. I'm in the process of creating a more specially designed Iranian page that will have updates. But follow us on social media, YouTube, Twitter, and the like, and these updates will be sent to you. If you'd like to schedule a private consultation, please email me at info@jqqlaw.com. Thank you for watching.